Dacht mir, als Malochem schweben, in jeden Winkel von Heu. Wenn mein Mame bencht auf Lieb und so gut schau bis Noraroi.
Oh yeah. There's my grandfather, my father, me and my son. We took it in Ottawa by Castenge. A man who used to take, like from the parliament, to take those pictures. Yeah. And he was the greatest, and he was interested in our family, and he liked my grandfather. He liked that face and that beard. My brother, poor Danny, was in the beginning, he was also a photographer. He worked by that man. I'll tell you how it began. First of all, it began in Russia. We had it very nice there. My father was a rich man. He wasn't a millionaire, but we were prosperous in the butcher business. My grandfather, the one you see on the pit, yes, he was the most ideal man. He was the man that I'm trying to follow. He was brought up not in Uman where I was born. He was born in a town, let's say 20 miles away from Uman. We call it Sokolivka. Over there, his business was even different. You think it was with barrels, some kind of woods, all kind of wood. He was on a different business than butcher. Over there, they needed very little, and there was a rabbi in Sokolivka. A rabbi means a learned man where they daven a lot and they study a lot and they enjoy life together. They make like Shabbos, the Friday night or the Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. They sit together, they study together, they sing. It was the greatest joy. So until his Hassan, he was like almost the Chosid. He made his living more or less, and then when he was married. So was his beginning. When they came over to Uman, he married a Umaner with the Bobbe Brucher. See, that's why we have a lot of Boers. His father was Moshe. I never met a Moshe. That's why we have Morrises a lot. Moshe was my grandfather's father. He must have been in that town over there, on that Sokolivka there. I always wanted to write, and they used to go to Yared in Sokolivka. Uman was a big city. Uman was a big city. It's located, if you look at the map, on the geographical map, you see Odessa by the Black Sea. Odessa is here by the Black Sea. And then you see Kiev here. Uman is just in the middle. Just in the middle, just like you will go like this, Uman. So, I remember, life was nice. First of all, the city that we lived in, Uman, was a beautiful city on the style, I would say, like Ottawa. Comparatively speaking, we had beautiful sections, we had beautiful schools, we had an agricultural school that was famous all over Russia. They called it the garden of the Tsaritsa. Tsaritsa means the Tsar's wife. Before the Bolsheviks, they had pogroms, all kinds of pogroms, because there was no government steady. the Tsar was down. That was in 1917 when the wars, I think, finished. It started from 14 to 17.
Right.
At that time, Kerensky took over, Kerensky was like the socialist in Portugal, but they didn't last too long. The Bolsheviks wanted to take it. So meanwhile, the Western people like America, many others, they didn't want the communism to get in there. So they had a man like Denikin called Chak, great military man, and they wanted not to let in the communists in. So at that time, different bands get together and they robbed and they killed, We had in our city, we had 3 pogroms, so about 1,000 people were killed. And I saw that some friends of mine were killed. I was fortunate and lucky that I was not.
Dacht mir, als Malochem schweben in jeden Winkel von Holt. Mir smol schien lejoim ha-Shabbos, lejoim ha-Shabbos.
And my grandfather was more like a father to us.
My grandfather's wife came from butchers. They came to Uman because he married a Bruch. I was the only 1 year old when she died. My grandfather had 4 children. It was my father as one son, and it was Seubel, and it was Chanye, and it was Rochel. And in fact, I heard that when my father was born, it was a great simcha because it was all girls. I don't know, but I remember maybe he had a few who passed away or something. They were very happy with my father that he was born. So my grandfather, with his beginning of learning and going to the shul every morning and every evening and all that, he still observed till the end. In the morning, 6, 7 o'clock, he used to go away to the great shul before the market. Then he went into the butchery, to the butcher, and he sold meats to the Weiber. My mother was the cashier. See, where my grandfather had a balance. He had a balance, learning, studying, eating, after lunch to lay down for half an hour, after lunch and to lay down at a stop, and the evening to sit down by the great shul there by the big table with all the students and study. That was a fine life. He lived in that little town and used to be with the Rebbe more than in his business and more than in his home. They used to spend a lot of time there because it was enjoyable. Used to sit, let's say, 40, 50 people together with the Rebbe, and I knew the Rebbe. He used to come for a visit. And until this day, I was influenced with his singing with that Rebbe. First of all, he was a saint. To give a look on that man. And the way he sang on a Friday night, he used to come to visit the woman from the little town. He used to make rounds for collections of money to his old friends. So then over there they studied the Chumash and the Gemara, all the big books, they studied. My grandfather was learned, very learned. And then his life was a very harmonious life. My father was influenced, or the blood was of my grandmother's family, the Baba Brucha. And when I knew another Baba Brucha I was only 1 Yiddish even here. But I knew our family, our brothers in Uman, in our city, and they were again my father's type. They were learning doesn't mean anything. It's the business nerve, business people, great business people. They were called Kasinovsky family, and they were very hot and temperamental. This is where it comes in. If some of our children are temperamental, it comes from that heart. Yeah, exactly. See, I'm a mixture. I know that I'm a mixture of my father, but I remember my grandfather, and then my mother was a different type. Mother was calm, good, and not extreme. My father was an extreme case. My father, in his young days, only when he was 13 or 14, he was already for business. You see, so my father was not like as my grandfather. My grandfather was learned very much into Gemara and everything. My father was always rich, hard worker. He was a terrific hard worker. My father, he had a lot of nerve, and I consider in life a person who has nerve to take chances and do things. It doesn't mean to do bad things, to do good things. He had a nerve because he had it, and he practiced it, and he was convinced, when he did business and buying stuff and doing stuff, he did in the millions, and it was successful. So he took chances, He had a lot of nerve. He was a hard worker, very much, too much. My father made it a business big. My father used to ride over to the Yaredim, to the bazaars in different places on a horsebacking for miles, on the Yaredim. And he used to buy. He was a great merchant. He was a terrific, energetic person. We sit on board of those balagulas, with horses, wagon with a couple of horses. And we traveled. So he was a butcher. First of all, we had a kosher store in a trade. The grandfather with my mother used to be in the kosher meat. My father with workers was in the trade. But besides of this, we used to give to the military. We had military in our city. They call it the polk over there in Russian. They call it the polk. The polk means a brigada or something like that. We used to give them meats and other products, but it was a very profitable thing, Then my father was so aggressive that we had places to feed younger steers to make them fatter and bigger and send away like to Kiev or to Warsaw. Yeah, when the war started, he was going after the army, supplying the stuff. Yeah, and there they made big money. He was the padrachik. The padrachik means the supplier of. My father did all kinds of businesses with different people who came to him with propositions. So we used to make leather. We had a business. They put in the skins of the cattle and make leather. He was with partners. He was with partners and mills for flour. He was in partners with people exporting and importing eggs. My father started young in business. He liked it. He was successful. But also, Shabbos used to come, sit down by the table, sing the Zmiras, observe. And over there it was almost everyone at the Shabbos. It was a different life, We didn't have all the movies and the radio, the television.
What was your mother like?
Well, she was a great, kind soul. I mean, she influenced me with her goodness. honesty, simplicity. One of the things that I remember, that is one in my character, like on Saturday afternoon, she used to go to the hospitals, and Uman bring jello, cookies, and other things to visit the sick, to help her. When she stood with my grandfather in the butcher store as a cashier, and it used to come people to buy there from all the corners of the city, from far away, because she did not take what was the price. She always took less, and always throw in a piece of meat, a couple of bones to the customers. So the poor people, they used to flock there.
Mesmo le yoem ashabos, le yoem ashabos.
I was born in 1901. 1901. I'm 74 now. 74. We had good schools, good Hebrew and Jewish schools. I was fortunate to be to have the imported Arabic from the Lithuania over there that I see. In our section, some didn't grow those great scholars. So we imported them from certain other sections. They came over, and I happened to be with one who was one of the great ones. So that influenced. I was only, let's say, 13, 14 years, and I studied there 3, 4 years. I was able to speak Hebrew fluently, and he opened for us the treasures of Bialik and all the other things. So that was good. We had good schools. Then we had. I went to the gymnasium. I went to the gymnasium, commercial училище. In other words, the Russian. And our youth was very nice. We had in our Uman, in that city, we were butchers. And we had a big place, they call it a hoif, like if you ever go to France, I suppose, they have, in other words, a few houses, a row of here and a row there, houses here. Besides the houses that we had, let's say, 7, 8 different tenants, families that we had, we were the bottom of that house. We had a place for cows and for horses and for sheep, and we had a garden for sunflower and cucumbers. Everything my father wanted to know. So what I want to say, yeah, we had horses, and when I was a kid of 10, I used to take a horse. We had beautiful horses. To sit down, even without a saddle, and go out in the fields. We had our shepherds, the few shepherds we had. And I loved so much because of the Bible. When I studied the Bible about Abraham, Jacob, Joseph, with the sheep and with the herds and with the shepherds, to me it was like I'm in it. I used to take a horse. I mean, I had the nerve to sit down when I was 10, 11 years old, to sit down on a beautiful horse and to ride out in the fields and to meet these shepherds, to sit with them and eat their bread, their black bread, and go to the well and drink the water there. It was a terrific. I loved life and I loved nature and I loved simplicity. We always had a couple of servants in the house. Yeah. We had a cook, and we had a cleaner to clean. There's a big house, and I had it good because at many times I used to be the cashier and the trade. My father, when he was busy going away, and when the war came, he was away. So I had lots of money, and I used to make good use of it. The money, eat a lot, drink a lot, drink not whiskey, good chocolates and good knisheklach, I like that, I was a big eater, yeah. I had a wonderful youth, wonderful. I had good schooling, we were very rich. I used to be a terrific kid. for nature. I loved nature. Many times I didn't go to school, and I went just to the beautiful gardens, to the beautiful places. I had a few friends, somehow, like even in those days, in those simple days, they used to be companions, gangs. In the summer, we had, when I was already, let's say, 12, 13 years, 14 years, we had a bunch of boys and nice girls get together, sing, go to different parks. I was very romantic, I must tell you that. When I was 14, 15 years, I had girls and I used to like their companies, stay together, go together, always. I am by nature very progressive. I believed, we Jews believe that communism is Moshiach, is salvation, is good. I thought, they will work for the proletariat, for the poor. It was a great movement over there. At that time, thousands and thousands went to Israel, and they would listen to Jabotinsky, and even later, he had a vision for the Polish Jewry. He said something is coming around, but he was very temperamental, and he went overboard, as they call it. So the big men there, like Weizmann and the others, they were always a little bit not in harmony with this Jabotinsky. But he's great. He's buried there. He was first buried here. Then they took over the bones to Israel. I was one of the cantors who sang the greatest prayers. Then they took him over from here. Then we had big thing. Paraded, we paraded in the streets. He was recruiting and he wanted the people to go to Israel. And I figured if to fight and be killed and be in Europe, in Russia, not safe, I figured let me go even to die, but for the Israel cause. I felt that in Russia, I was like a boy adventurous, a group of people, a group of boys and girls went. So I say I go to, we went a year before my father went. I was 19 years old, 19 years old. So I went over. First of all, it was at the time when I left and they left. It was a chaos. It wasn't a steady. The Bolsheviks now were not set in completely, and the other bandits were not out completely. So even on the roads that when we traveled from Uman, from our town, to coming to the Dniester, which was about 2 days of travel with the horses. And then in the Dniester, it was not easy. There was a lot of killings. There was a lot of bad things happened. Even in the Dniester, those people who took over the people, some were honest. We paid the goy, and he took us over. We gave them the money. It was nice. Some people took very much advantage. Not only did they take the money, but they drowned them. A lot of that was terrible things. It wasn't easy. All those things were taking a chance. The young ones, when we came there, I was lucky. All my life I was lucky. When we came to the Dniester and we stood by the Goy on this side, we had to wait over a day. We ate and we drank. There was wine, a barrel with wine, so we made a hole, we drank. And we went even to the Dniester to bathe in the afternoon, where other people thought that this Dniester is a place of death. It was a nice thing, like a river, like the Hudson, and not the Hudson smaller. We went bathing. Everything was nice. And then we came to Bessarabia. I had it good, and I was young and jolly, and I did it, and that's where my cantorate started. We had it nice over there. I worked with a group that we were happy, a group of 10, 15. This is what's our own group. They had already a Bet Halutz, which was a big house where people from all over came. And we worked, and we made a living, and we were happy. To make the story short, in my case, after a few months working, a man liked me for my Hebrew and for my voice and for my personality. He said, "Why not be a cantor?" So that's where I started the cantoring. You see, I was discovered by a man, a great, fine man. I used to come into his girls, to stop ringing. He heard I speak Hebrew. He heard that I sing. I was young and nice and pleasant. So he says, why do you have to work and make just a living? I will send you to a teacher of cantorate. There was a great man. And the family was already there. So I say, I need my monies, my earnings, which I support my father and mother. So he said, I'll pay for everything. I'll pay for your study. I'll pay for all that you make. I will give you. Okay. I went there for 3 months. It was in the summertime. I went to that cantor school, and I was one of the better students. I grabbed it. I soaked it in just like it was natural. In the 3 months after I studied, I went to a shul, a trial, and they took me, and they paid me for the 3 days as much as I have to work a whole year, only for the 3 days. I sang, I made good. The pogroms were on Jews, but the Bolsheviks were nice. They were nice to the people, but the rich ones, they wanted to liquidate. So then, when the Bolsheviks came in into power in 1919 or 20, they liquidated many of the rich. They didn't want the rich people. They considered them enemies, and they considered them counter-revolutionists. So they began to arrest them or kill them. They began to arrest or kill the bourgeois. Then my father was considered one of the richer people. My father came with a family a year later because he had to leave, otherwise he would have been liquidated. He was afraid to be killed. And if he would have gone himself, they took what they call it the mashkonas. They take him and then they say, bring back the man, otherwise we'll kill you. Hostages, yeah. So he went with the family, and they came over. Then I shifted my plans and instead of going to Israel, we began to stick together to go to Canada, and they left a treasure when they went away.
At that time, families of the rich were fair game for the Bolsheviks to take as hostages and force the rich business owners out of hiding. Young children were most vulnerable. Many were sent away to protect them from capture, even though that journey would have them run a gauntlet through the surrounding countryside, teeming with frustrated revolutionaries, bandits, and murderers. The children left 2 weeks before their parents.
We went in the dark. It was in the fall where the corn stalk, the corn was off, it was in the fall. And to be hiding, we had to walk between them, and they're very hard and very sharp. It was very cold, it was all uphill. We had to walk, the wagon wouldn't go, we had to go and hide. I remember, it was Buchanan too. Well, Sam was 2 years younger than me, and he was 4. And Bull was my age, but he was Han's favorite. And they couldn't understand why it was my responsibility. So it wasn't easy. So I remember we were tired of carrying him, and Abe was very, very young. He was only about 4 years old. I was the strong one. So we could not, and it was very cold. And we had to stop at times to go on the warm clothes. What do you think? We got dressed up for the journey? But you had it. This is what you wore. So anyway, so he was tired. We couldn't carry him. We could not walk. He could not walk. So they dragged him. All his skin was off. By the time we got to the Romania, but nothing. We had to go on a boat to go across. We got to the border, and Rob was afraid the police would be at the other end, and a lot of them did get in trouble. Going over to the border, it was all Jewish people were arranging it, and they robbed them silly. Would you believe that? He survived. How? I don't know. At the same time, they drowned a lot of people. We survived because we're all together, a lot of people. They ate, I don't know what they ate. Whatever I did eat, believe me, I don't think I swallowed it. I was so bitter, I was so upset. It was a house, I don't know, maybe there was social people looked after us. You slept on top of each other. What do you think? It was a hotel? It was not a hotel. My parents came 2 weeks later.
There was a family, Sam Zaslow. This Sam was a lovely, good-natured fellow, a diamond. He was sent as a delegate for many people. At that time, many people came from Russia, and the thousands of families. So they sent him with lots of money to go to Romania, Bessarabia. Some people came over already, and some people he sent messengers to Russia, to Ukraine, with money to bring him over. So he had thousands of money. My father had a big fur coat. He sold the fur coat there in Bessarabia, and that was for his expense. So he went first, my father.
My father came the first one in somebody else's name, and there was papers for the father and the 3 children. But the father passed away, so it took my father instead.
The Zaslow family took him over, yeah. The Zaslow delegate, Sam, he took him over with a bunch of, people there.
And then my brother, Laser, went about a half a year later. He went with the Zaslow brothers. They used to come and pick up a lot of pastors that all kinds of papers. And they had a sister that wanted my brother Laser to marry him. Brenda will take him across the Canada.
It was in 1920. I came over with Morris, my brother Morris. This Zaslow took me just like that. He says, you liked my singing, you liked me. He took me with a bunch of people, if we figured to him it didn't amount, $200-300. So I went with the Zaslow again. He used to come and go.
So they took my brother Laser and Morris at the same time. But when they went to cross the papers to get on the boat, they could take only Laser because Morris's paper, the one for Morris, was not good. So they left him on the way in Paris. It was the day of Yom Kippur. And they just left him. He was only 16 years old. He said it was Yom Kippur. Everybody didn't eat. Well, he had to steal to survive. Live anywhere at all. He didn't know the language. He didn't know what to do with himself. It hit him so hard. He was so disgusted. Didn't know what's going to happen to him. How do you be? He was only a kid at that time. Never been anywhere else. Didn't know what was going on. And what happened to Morris, very few people knew. And even when he came to Canada, never talked about it. But he was stranded there for 6 solid months. So my mother decided we had to go make a living in Romania. We lived in a one-room house. Hani had also one of those dwellings. So they started to make lakshan and bring it to the market and selling it. And Hani made the same lakshan. She sold hers right away. My mother, nobody needed them. When she sold hers, she took ours. And she sold them. And so if we sold them, we ate. If we didn't sell them, we couldn't bring them. They were frozen, or they were dirty, or they were soggy. So I started all over again. So I remember my Auntie Hannah. It was very cold in the winter times. A lot of wagons used to go by with wood. So we stand on the highway. And they would sell us a cord of wood. So who could carry it? We had to cut it. We had to break it. And we had a stove made out of tin. So when it got heated, the house would burn. I had to watch. So at night, there was no fire. And in the morning, there was a wick or basket. We used to carry the lakshan. And I still have calluses from carrying the lakshan. When you live in fear, you grow up very fast and you see and you think what it is. It's not easy. It's not easy. And what we went through, my mother was a very brave lady. Very aggressive, where she had to fight for things. We had nobody to take us across, and we were a big family. My father didn't get to work or anything, but one thing is, when anybody at the Greener, there were not too many people in Ottawa to try to solve your problem. And nobody would take us over. We were there for 2 years. Yes, anyway, there was no way for us to get here. So the people decided they have to do something. So there was a jeweler, Mrs. Freeman's father had a jewelry store. But he was also one of those pioneers, Belsky. They came to him and he said he have to help these people. And they decided he has to do something or else. These people will never survive. So he went to the one that's selling the passage car. It's Elfman. Do you know Elfman's? His father, yeah. He had an agency, a travel agency. So he told them, send them for passage. I will sign for them. When they will come here and they will work, they'll pay you. Did you ever hear a setup like that? But nobody would take us because we had no relatives or anything. Mr. Bilski got on the phone. But you had your father. My father didn't have anything. He did nothing. He was too proud and was too disgusted. He was too down. My father was so bitter. He forgot, and I didn't forget. He had nothing to write to us. So he wrote nothing.
My father worked for $3 a week, or maybe in the beginning just for the logis, for the staying, for the food, and then this by Shmuel Katzer. There was Shmuel the butcher. He started by him as a worker when he came along.
Couldn't get going. Just couldn't get going. My mother did everything for my father. My father was just He's a very hard man, very bitter man. He had nothing to do. He had to have something to bring us to. Okay?
I was in Ottawa with my brother Morris and my father. Then after a while, we sent cards, they call it chips carton, for the rest of the family for my mother. They still in Kashmir in the Sarabi. They were there about a year after the three of us were in Ottawa.
We came by boat. From Romania, we went to Germany. Mm-hmm. And from Germany, we went on the boat.
Da Lasst mir als Malochem schweben, in jeden Winkel von Holz. Wenn mein Mame bencht auf Lieb und so gut schau bis Norarois. Und wenn mein Taten sie sagen, mir smol le yoim Shabbos, le yoim Shabbos.
And I remember we just came to Ottawa. My brother was living in Toronto at that time. And he was singing for some kind of he saved up $90. But he was saying that he will come to Montreal when we'll get there to bring us to Ottawa. So a whole bunch of immigrants came in, and we get to Montreal. The station was full of people. And 2 minutes, everybody disappeared. Everybody came to take them someplace. We were the only family left over. And my mother said, what are we going to do here? No laser waiting for us, and no money, no nothing. We were on this train for 8 days from the elephant getting to Ottawa. Anyway, all of a sudden, a couple comes by and sees us, the way we were looking, the way we looked. I just said, are you the Zaslavskys? The father put us in jail, but it went off. So she said that they called, laser called, that he couldn't make it, that they will see that we got on the train and they will meet us. We came and they brought us to the college because my father was staying there. So they took us in there. And laser says to my mother, I saved up $90. Here is the $90. You'll go out tomorrow. Somebody will show you the way, or you'll buy what you need.
My mother says, no, this money will send for my father's sisters with her family. She was still there and a little hopeless. They didn't have any people to bring them. And not only that, she had an old boyfriend. My mother had a man here who used to be our boyfriend in very young days. They had great respect for one another. He was a lovely fellow, very nice. He lived in New York. So when my mother came here, even for my father, he got together a little money, I think about $250 or $300 this man got together to help them. So I took that money, we sent away for Hanye, I don't know whether you met Hanye.
Of course.
Hanye, but the workmans, all
Yes.
the workmans, yeah.
And this is how Hani came. I had some months in the boy. But we are in Canada. It's okay. Canada was good to us.
Even in Ottawa, he did great with my mother. They did, they started, even this is a story, this is an history, how they started in Ottawa from scratch. He became the butcher of Ottawa. All the great customers came because he knew his business very much. He was an artist in cutting meat and all that. And he was a pleasant fellow. He never smiled much. He never smiled too much. Once in a while. But there was that inner confidence that you can confide with him. Abraham Moshk was working for somebody and also helped out my father. But I think Rebbe and Abraham and Musa, they used to help in the store, in the butcher store. Collection, work, and in fact, somebody told me that Abraham, when he used to go to school, he used to fall asleep on the on the table there. And then they begin to buy real estate again. And he was shrewd very much. He was very clever in that. Then, when I came to Ottawa, after 3 days, I sang in the shul, in the Morris Street shul, in the old one, on Morris Street. I made $50 for the first Shabbos. At that time, it was a lot. So all the boys, and the newcomers, they say, Laser, don't go to. I wanted to go to work. I wanted to quit. And so at that time, I could have made $8, $10 a week. They say, you're crazy. You make for an hour $50. But you have to go to work and slave. I want to be a businessman. And my blood was because my parents and grandparents were business people. And that's what I wanted. Goldsmith. He was the shamus there. He was a nice guy. He liked me. He says, you go to Montreal. Your place is in Montreal. I went to Montreal, and when I first davened in there, they didn't know what to do with me. I used to make $100 for a Shabbos, and they carried me on the shoulders. They didn't know I was so fiery, so honest with my work, singing, that it was just like you take a frozen thing and you melt it. Everything was frozen. All the clergy there was frozen. Here comes a young boy and prays, and he means it, because it was something. It was an art, and it was natural me. Well, I did it for 6 months. Then I went on vacation to Toronto. I wanted to see some landslide in Toronto. It was after Passover. I went to Toronto, and in Toronto, I was lucky again. The principal of all the schools met me. Nathanson was his name. He was the loveliest fellow in Toronto. He was the chief. And he also took a liking me. He didn't let me go. I used to go with him all over. He took me into that big shul in the middle of the week. And he said, try the shul. Let me hear you. And I sang, and it sounded okay. He made an appointment with that Gabba, and I davened in the middle of the summer. They announced it in the paper. I still have the ad. And the shul had about 3,000 people came that Friday night, and I made terrific. It was good. And I davened the next day, and they didn't believe. The people just did not believe that a youngster of 20, 21 years can do what he did. So they say, try another Shabbos, daven another. It just happened, America. I davened another Shabbos there, and they said, they gave me $2,500 a year, which was, at that time, was a lot of money. So I stood there for 2 years. When I was in Toronto, I was single almost the 2 years. Then I married, and I married in Ottawa. Tybee came over to Ottawa from New York. We know one another from childhood. We know one another from our city. It's true she was born in a different section of Russia, but her father was imported as a teacher to us again. She was only 3 years old. And then she lived not far from us, and we used to see one another, but we never were friends. They were of a higher intellect. And then I went to New York because my wife is from New York, and I felt it's a bigger field, and I didn't see any future there. I was young, and I didn't have the guidance. I went to the conservatory there, but I could have stayed for years there, to make my living, a life there. But I didn't have guidance. I was young and, not certain to stay. I went to New York, and I made all kinds of moves in New York. Thank God, it's not bad. In fact, when my grandfather, the old man, came here once, and he stood at my house. It was in 1926 in East New York. My grandfather came to visit, stayed in him, made a big Kiddush. And when I began to to speak to him that I'm not content because of a journey with Balabatam. I didn't even like it then. So my grandfather, he told me with those words, he says, Bashir, take it as it comes. It's so, it's so written, from God, so take it, accept it.
Anyway, we live in a very good country, but one thing, when we came here, we were strong, and we knew we were going to live, and we knew we were going to be okay. And we had good neighbors.
We all went to school. The York School were just built then. The Civic Hospital was built then, and so was the school. But we lived on St. Joseph Street. The cars were running on rails then. So if you lived on this side of the rails, you got to go to the school there.
No, that's right.
The street school. Our house school. There for about 2 months, and one time the teacher said, it was raining. And the teacher, she was the principal, she was the janitor, she was everything there. And she said, what would you like to do on a rainy day? And so I'm a little knew how to talk. But I could write, I could understand what she was saying. I said, I would like to go to York Street School. And she just happened to read my note. And the next day she sent me to the York Street School. And there was a lot of Jewish teachers. I could read, I could spell, I could count, but I couldn't speak. And they encouraged you to speak. Say anything you want. And there was a lot of immigrants, and we helped each other. And after I worked at my father's place quite a long time, and then I decided to go to New York. Things would be better there. So I went to my brother. They had a child already. They lived in a one-bedroom apartment. And Tata had a sister as old as I was. My mom was there. She said, I want to stay there too. So she had two other kids in the house. I went and got myself a job at 5 and 10. I was getting $12 a week. And they gave $5 for my board, and $7 I kept. I had to buy your own lunch, I had to buy your own fare. And this was lasted for quite a while. Then my grandfather had an auntie there, my father's sister. And my grandfather kept to visit them, and he said, you're doing a very bad thing. Your mother really needs you in the store. Listen to me, go home. So I went back with him home. And then I started to work at Freeman's. I worked at Freeman's for quite a bit. And the China department was in the basement. And we had a Louis Davis, who was our manager. He was such a good manager. China used to come here to repack it. You had to wash it, you had to place it. And if anybody would buy it, we had to wrap it. Everything was done up the way we do now.
That's right.
I was there for about 5 years from there I got married. And from the fire I went into the other fire site. I lived in Montreal for about 6 months. Actually, we come from the same neighborhood, would you believe that? And my mother and his mother were very good friends. And somehow we found each other. My mother used to go to Montreal to buy like groceries. And she ran into them. I went to Montreal for about 6 months. I didn't like it there. But we went and got a store on St. Patrick's Street. We were there for about 5 years. A grocery store. 5 years later, we went to the market. I had 2 children, and Henry was a very sickly child. And we used to say if he had more care, he would be better. So we gave up the store. We sold it, as a matter of fact. We had a good landlord, Mr. Launderville. He was running taxi driving, but he was very good to us. He helped us in so many ways. He told all the drivers when they go by near to have a dispatch, but they'd have to stop at the store to call Dad, and whatever. But so told them every time you go there, you have to buy something. We were open day and night, and everybody went to close already. But after 5 years, we sold the store. And we got $6,000 to pay. We came pregnant with Sheila. And we moved into my father's apartment. We were there for about 5 years. So we got to the market. We got to the market was in 1939. But Aunt Mary and my brother Ray were there about 2 years before us. And so was Uncle Sam and Lil had a store there. And we got in there too, working very hard. But we did well because we were very frugal and we worked very hard.
That's right.
We had no outside help in the house or in the store. So whatever we could save, we put it together.
Sure.
And after that, we bought a house on Nelson Street. But people lived there. Her husband died. She was there for 20 years, and she wouldn't have moved. She just had one child. She lived or she wouldn't move. And all this used to have the furnace, used to have the ashes. We didn't put it up, put it in the basement. So the basement was full of ash. It took us a month until we took the ashes out of the basement. So we moved there. And after that, we bought the house in York Street. And children were good. When we got that York Street, Sheila was married, Freddie was married, Henry was getting married, and Larry finished school. And at that time, we were well, no children, we can do what we wanted. And the biggest thrill is we got redone the house just the way I wanted.
Laura used to be a news agent on the trains, paper sandwiches or whatever. He was coming and going, and they came illegally. It was a Canadian, but they made me shit in a shtickler. I don't know how really it worked, but he wasn't eligible to be. When it came to be a Canadian, a citizen, he never acknowledged.
The Burach now was living here, he was a butcher, so he came here, struggled very much. Burach was very much unlucky, he wasn't lucky. But now he has enough to live. He's trying his best. He's connected with Betar, Jabotinsky, he's connected with the Jewish Defense League. When they come, those big men, he watches, he's one of those watchmen, security. He loves Israel and he loves everything that comes from Israel. This keeps him alive.
Fällt mein Tate dem Becher mit weißen oder roten Wein, dacht mir als die Schiene gießt euch uns allem in ihr Schau. Und wenn mir nehmen's mir singen, und wenn mir nehmen Kiddush machen, Yoi Mashishi vaychula shomayim veyored v'chol tzevuhom, vaychal Eloikim bayim ashvim elachti yasheroso, vayil bayim ashvim mikol melachti yasheroso, Vai vorech Elokim et im ashvi, vai kadesh oisoi, Ki voi shovas mikol melachto yasher boro, Elokim elasos. Bin ihr sicher azen di maluchim ochazor. Mizmor shir leyoim HaShabbos, leyoim HaShabbos. Mizmor shir leyoim HaShabbos, leyoim HaShabbos.